Good evening and welcome to our first live XCTV webinar. I'm Tim O'Rourke, and joining me tonight is former Olympian, NCAA champion. She was a Foot Locker High School All-American. That's Carrie Tollison. She'll be with us in just a second. We're just delighted that those of you on the East Coast are staying up a little bit late tonight to join us, and those of you on the West Coast are holding off dinner just a bit to be with us, and all of you in the middle of the country, you're just right. There you go. All right. This is going to be the first of a series of webinars we'll be doing, and will be the second Wednesday of every month, and we'll go all the way up and through cross-country season in the fall, and we'll culminate that with the national championship meets in November and December. So we hope that the second Wednesday of every month you'll tune in and join us. We hope to bring you each month some of the top distance athletes and cross-country coaches in the nation. And wow, when we say the top, we really mean it. Just look at who we have with us tonight. We've got Connor Mance with us, who just pulled off an incredible victory in the NC2A Division I Cross Country Championships. We also have his coach at BYU, Ed Eystone, will be joining us. And speaking of BYU and championships, we also have Coach Diljit Taylor and three members of her squad who dominated the women's race to win the Division I team title. So if that's not enough, we're going to throw in some other things, including a few surprises each night, just like we will tonight. As Olympic bronze medalist Dina Castor is going to join us. She's going to give you some tips on developing and cultivating mental toughness. And we'll have some fun along the way, and you'll have a chance to both ask questions of our guests and actually win some prizes. So at any point during the webinar tonight, you can click on the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen and type in a question. If we use your question on the webinar, we'll be sending you a $25 gift card. All right, so let's get started by bringing out not just one of the most successful distance runners in U.S. history, but also one of the great ambassadors for the sport. As I mentioned just a minute ago, she's been an Olympian. She was our national champion. She was an NCAA individual and on a team championship. And in high school, she made it to the Foot Locker Nationals 3 times. Carrie Tollison. Welcome, Carrie. All right. So let's introduce our first guest of the evening. In what turned out to be a very challenging year with the NCAA Cross Country Championships being moved all the way from November to March, Connor Mance, the junior from BYU, not only met that challenge, he destroyed it, running an incredibly gutsy race to eventually run away and capture the Division I National Championship. So Connor, welcome, and first off, congratulations on your individual national championship.
Thank you, Tim.
All right, it's a joy. Before we talk about the race, and to be honest with you, we've been talking about it for the last half hour because it's so exciting. It was one of the great races of all time. It was so exciting to watch, and the TV people, of which Carrie was one of them, they did such a great job. So we all got to really feel a national championship race. But before we talk about that race itself, you know, you've been a high-level runner for many years. You ran at the Foot Locker in high school. You've been in the national championship in college. You know, BYU runs at the highest level there is. So you were all ready for a national championship in November like we always have had it. And then all of a sudden, after all that training and all that, you come back to school and they say, hey, wait 4 months. So what was the challenge like physically and mentally to prolong it like that? Because it must have worked because you sure ran well.
Yeah, it was incredibly difficult when, they said the season was canceled at the beginning of August because it was just like, I had probably a good 9 months leading up to that where I was just so focused on cross country, or maybe 6 months beforehand, I was so focused on the cross country season coming along. So I just tried to focus on, what I could do at the time, whether that was running workouts. And my team was fortunate enough to have to go in a race in October on the nationals course. And so it was just, focusing on that, focusing on, just the process, not trying to focus on the results. And so I think that's what helped us as a team, and a few of our individuals just kind of like eventually do well at the national championship. Wasn't focused on the race at hand, it was focused on just the process as it goes.
Speaking of process that goes, we were talking beforehand about the process that you went through during your race. And if you guys haven't seen the race, you need to go back and watch it and learn from Connor because you ran such a smart race. Walk us through it. We know that you guys went out super fast, and that first 2K was probably the flattest on the course. But then you made this mental note to say, hey, I got to step back and I got to take my foot off the pedal and run my race. Walk us through your race a little bit.
All right. So at the beginning, I decided that, I was really fit and I knew my fitness was there. So I decided to just stay in that front pack. And Wesley Kiptoo, who's a very talented runner from Iowa State, took it out very quickly. And around 2,000 meters, he started to pull away from me. And I caught back up in about another 400 meters. And then at about 3,000 meters, a little before 3,000 meters, I saw our times on the clock by 3K, and I realized, okay, yes, this is very difficult. We're starting to hit those hills. I know there's no way I can maintain this, and so I just simply let Alex Masai from Hofstra and Wesley Kiptoo from Iowa State just run ahead of me, because I knew if I was to continue going at that pace, it wasn't likely that I was able to have my best performance. I was going to fall apart at the end. And then about 5-6K, I caught up to them, and then Wesley Kiptoo made a move again and put another like 40 meters on me. And then me and Adrian Wildschut from Florida State worked together, and we caught him about 7,000 meters into the race. And then with about 1,200 meters left, we were all running together up and down these very steep hills. And about 1,200 meters to go, I just made a move to try and win it all. And I looked back behind me about 500-600 meters to go and realized I was all on my own.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of exciting for me.
Kind of, boy. That first K, that was so fast. Did you think it was going to be that fast going in? Did you, he does like to go out hard. Wesley always just kind of says, here it is, and let's go. But that fast?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that at all. We did have the wind at our back for probably the first 800, and then we did the hairpin turn and started going into the wind. So I didn't even know it was that fast until after the race. I just knew, like, okay, like, we're moving. Like, cross country races always feel fast at the start, like in nationals always feels faster. I did not think it was going to be that fast through 1,000 meters. I didn't think we were running 2:30 or whatever we ran at the time.
Well, when you were out on that course, I mean, we didn't really even talk about the wind, to be honest. When I was doing the commentary, we were talking about that. It was a very windy day. It was pretty nice, like temperature wise for you athletes, but the course was so hard. Like, we think about Foot Locker, right? We think about Balboa and that huge hill that we have to go up twice. But this was like doing that like 8 times kind of. I mean, it was up and down steep like we do in San Diego, up again and down. So what was that course like to actually compete on?
It was very difficult. Even running it like 2 days beforehand, it was like, this is a hard place to run on. It's a hard place to run at. And so it was just like making sure, you didn't like give too much early on was, something you had to think about during the race. For me personally, it was like, okay, I know if like I'm really hurting and I'm, at the bottom of a hill, it's going to be difficult. So I need to make sure that I have enough when I reach the bottom of the hill that I can make moves and that I can, go up the hill without slowing down significantly.
My question though is, a lot of people are going to come back and run that course in, is it 2 years from now?
Yeah.
You won't have your eligibility, right? You just have 1 more year?
I just have 1 more year.
So are you happy that you don't have to go back and race that course or not?
Oh, absolutely. I don't think I would, like, I think it'd be fun to race again, but I don't think a nationals meet there again would be, I don't think I'd want to race there again for a nationals meet.
Well,
that was
clearly killed it
difficult.
on that though.
Yeah, I think that'd be very hard to repeat at that course.
Yeah, well, the NCAA's gone to that flat 2,000 meter loop everywhere all the time. But that made it a cross country race, though. That was what was so exciting about it. And you can really tell you're a pretty good downhill runner. That's got to be a little bit of an advantage. You opened up a little bit each time there was a downhill. Wesley kind of leaned back, and Alex even leaned back a little bit too, and you opened up a little bit. And you charged up those hills. So I don't know, you must have taken advantage of it. At least that's what it looked like.
Oh, absolutely. We were doing some 800 meter repeats at a park near the school, and Coach Eystone kept having us do these ones that were all uphill. And then near the end of the season, he's like, all right, we'll do every other one will be a really strong uphill for the first half and then a steep downhill for the second half. And it was actually, I think what benefited me was my teammate Casey Klinger he's a really, really strong downhill runner. I think if there was a downhill cross country race, he'd win it every time. But he would just drop me on every time we hit those downhills. So I was just ready to run fast, like whenever I was going to hit a downhill. And then part of that also came from like experience at the Foot Locker regional meet. I was in the West region, and I remember somebody telling me beforehand, like, hey, those hills are monsters. Like everybody's going to be pushing up those hills. Hey, there's the video of it. Yeah. So those uphills are monstrous, and like everyone's going to be prepped for those. So make sure you run the downhills hard because everybody's going to be tired out by the time they hit the top of those hills.
What are your goals for now? I mean, you have a legit chance of getting on that Olympic team, but you also have, more things to do before then. So what's in your mind right now? What are you visualizing? What's on your mirror? Like, what are you thinking?
Yeah. I mean, the Olympics has kind of been on my mind since probably 2018. After cross country nationals, I went into Coach Eyestone's office. It's like, hey, I want to make an Olympic team. I think I have a shot as time goes on. And we were training actually for the Olympic marathon, and then I got hurt right before I was running my half to get the trials qualifier. And so after that, it really became a focus of, okay, let's see what we can do on the track. And so for now, I'm just focused on trying to run under that Olympic standard of 27:28 in the 10K. Run NCAAs for outdoors. I'll probably just do one event and then, focus on the trials.
Yeah, we asked folks if they had some questions.
Hopefully that top three.
Oh, there you go. Some of the questions here have been popping up. Here's an interesting one from Ben Zwart here, one of our viewers. From our perspective, it looks like running is everything to you, Connor. But how do you balance being a full-time college student while also running at the highest level, especially if you're going to try to make the Olympic team now?
It's all about sacrifice and setting priorities. For me, I knew school was a huge priority. As soon as I came to college, school was a huge priority. And that's always been something that was pushed by my family, my parents. And so, I really, it's just about setting priorities and a schedule. I think things in life can distract us, and, you set priorities and you kind of eliminate distractions can lead to success. I think Coach Eyestone really has a big role in that. And just, we go into his office before every season, we sit down, we talk through our goals, talk about what we're going to do to accomplish them, whether it just be like time management stuff or even like little things like that. And so it's just making sure that, before I go out and hang out with my friends or do anything else, I make sure I'm, I've gotten everything done for the day.
Well, hey, somebody snuck in there. Speaking of Coach Ed Eystone, I'm going to bring him on a little bit early if you can unmute that. Ed, it was a tremendous race for Connor, just a gutsy race. We were talking about the challenges of that. It must have been quite a thrill for you. I got to believe it.
Yeah, I think more than one individual likened it to a great Rocky movie where Rocky is going against the champ and he gets knocked down and then he pulls himself off the mat and is able to deliver the knockout blow. And that's certainly what we experienced with Connor's race. Before the race, we had talked it over. We knew Kip 2 has one way of running, and that's going out hard. And but we also knew that Connor is extremely fit and has probably more grit than any other athlete I've ever worked with. And so in our pre-race, kind of the day before, I said, you got the green light, just follow that intuition. I think as runners, we all kind of have that gut feel, that intuition that, hey, this pace is too hot, or I can stick this pace, coach. I know I can do it. So I just said, green light. If it feels like it's right, you just go with it and you stick with it. If it feels a little hot, then trust your intuition. And so early on, we saw him just go with him, and I thought, okay, he's just going to run in his shadow, and Kip 2 will have to do a little extra work there in the lead and the wind. And then when I saw that gap open, then as a coach, you just go, well, I hope he's just going through a little rough spot and he can come back. But I needn't have worried, because not only was he able to battle back from, I think, as far as 5 seconds down, he was able to make that up and then pull away at the end. And that, I think, as runners, we all know how tough that is when you kind of get broken in a race. Not that he was broken, but he made that decision to let that gap open. And anytime that gap opens, you know how tough it is to battle back from that. And so we were super excited to see him not only regain to run with the lead, but also actually take the lead and then win convincingly.
Yeah, we didn't get a chance to do a proper introduction. Coach Eyestone here himself was an NCAA champion, cross country track, everything there. So the full circle here of coaching an NCAA champion. What was more exciting, your winning an NCAA championship or coaching an NCAA championship? What was better?
Well, I think it's definitely. I think you definitely appreciate it more as a coach, because when you're an athlete, you're just going, yeah, that's what I do, is I win races. But then you realize with the passage of time, and it's been 30 plus years since I won mine, how actually extremely difficult it is to pull off the win, because you're not only running against the guys in your event, you're running against all the middle distance and distance guys gathered together. So on that given day, any given day, you know, things can happen. And so to be able to put all that together on that given day and then pull off the win convincingly in very dramatic fashion, just, you know, that's not going to happen. I mean, I've been coaching for, 20 years. I had someone fairly early in Josh Roatinsky, but it's been a few years since that, 15 plus years since Connor Mance was able to do it. And I don't know that I'm going to say yes, I'm going to have that again in my career, because Connor's going to come back and he's going to do it again next year.
There you go. Outstanding. Hey, if you guys could stay with us, that wasn't your Rocky analogy was perfect, because that wasn't a split decision. That was a knockout at the end.
That's true.
My
That's
gosh. True. Hey, if you can, we're going to kind of go a little off script here, but this is going to be a lot of fun. And I know at BYU, the men's program and the women's program, you guys have a real synergy there. And the women had a pretty good day themselves that day, capturing the team title. We've got a couple of them. We've got 3 of them with us. And so if we can, let's bring them in to join us and have a little roundtable discussion here. Let's start with the senior here. Sarah Musselman is with us. She was 33rd in the Nationals. That's All-American, fourth girl on that championship team. And then McKenna Lee is a junior, 41st, the 5th woman, just one spot out of that national or All-American. And then Lexi Holliday, the freshman, the true freshman, going from those high school races to the national championship. So ladies, thank you so much for joining us. And we'll keep this open. Anybody who wants to come on anything, certainly feel free to do so. But Sarah, if we can kind of start with you, you're the senior in our group there.
Yeah.
We keep hearing it. And when Coach Dilge came on the TV afterwards, she didn't talk about race plans and she didn't talk about splits. She talked about how special you girls are. And it seems like the BYU program, the men and the women, you're so successful, but it's such a great experience. What's that like, and what causes that? How does that all come together?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like this whole COVID and everything, it really just brought our team together, which sounds kind of opposite, but we just really worked hard together and pushed through this training and just created a vibe within each other where we could depend on each other and just love each other and accomplish what we knew we could accomplish and wanted to accomplish, and coach knew but wasn't really saying because she didn't want to. So it's just been an amazing time being here at BYU and everything, and I've just seen so much growth in every person that comes in, and it's been awesome. So
it really is a hallmark, isn't it? The growth is really something special.
Yeah.
Lexi, I'm going to bring you in here as the freshman. It's really fun to come to a team when you have these women that you can look up to and try and chase, right? But we've all been there where we are good in our high schools and we go to these teams and we have to kind of find our way. Sarah just said that you guys love each other, which I get. Like, you love your teammates and I loved mine. but what is that like to come to a BYU where there is this chemistry, not only from the men, but on the women's side now, where you guys want to win, you expect to win, and yet you still need to figure out your spot on the team?
Right. Yeah. Actually, that was on my recruiting trip. That was one of the main things I looked for. And out of all the colleges I visited, there was just something about BYU. We say it's a sisterhood, and I know a lot of colleges claim to have that, but here it's just something else. Everyone truly wants, everyone wants each other to succeed, and it's a different vibe, and I love it. And it's been amazing to walk into and to be a part of it and to try to, help uplift others as well. And I don't know, it was kind of a nerve-wracking walking onto such a good, solid team, but I haven't really, I don't know, finding my spot hasn't been hard. We all just work together, and yeah, we just come to practice and help each other, push each other to new limits.
So nice.
Let me ask McKenna, we've been talking about this course with Connor. That was quite a challenge, wasn't it?
It sure was.
I don't think I've ever seen, for those of us that were watching on TV, you always see a couple people collapse at the end, but there were people collapsing 20 meters before the finish, 30 meters before the finish. Was it as difficult as it looked?
You're probably asking the wrong person, honestly. I started out quite slow in my race, and so I did not hit the wall that a lot of other people hit. But yes, it was a very difficult course, and I think we saw there was multiple people on almost every single team that just died, absolutely died. But yeah, it was a very difficult course, but it was fun.
Could you tell you guys were doing well? Did you know with the 500 meters to go? Could you tell?
No, not at all.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't know. I was our 5th runner, but I thought I was our 7th runner because there are just so many bodies you don't know where you are. And I didn't know I was even close to All-American. People were kind of yelling around, you're in the top 60, you're in the top 50. But I didn't know I was that close. So it was kind of all over our heads. We weren't sure exactly what was going on until they really announced it.
Well, I'm just so thankful to hear you guys say that it was as hard as it looks. Because Ed, I know you and I do a lot of TV together, and I went out and ran the course the day before just so I could feel it. I just wanted to feel what you guys are going through so I could relay it to the audience. And then I met up with my Villanova coach who actually coached me back in college, and she's still coaching there. And she said, Carrie, but I think when you're a little bit more fit, you can handle those hills. And I was like, well, what are you saying? But it's nice to hear that we all struggled together on that course. But I do think what was really neat about watching you ladies run, and then after, there were people on your team that went out hard and kind of came back. And then there were people that went out easier and came together. And it just seemed like all things were firing for you on that day. And you had a huge weekend. Your teammates were at the NCAA indoor meet that weekend too. So how much of that are you, feeding off of as well, when you got your sisters, in Alabama, and then you have all your other sisters there in Oklahoma? I mean, that must have been pretty cool to have that synergy as well.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know who that was directed to, but I'll just start talking. It was very inspiring to we're all there getting ready for our race, and then we have our other teammates up on the screen at their national race, and it was just so inspiring to just see the DMR, and then Claire in her race, and then Courtney in her race. It was just so inspiring to just wow, I have seen them work so hard in practice, and I have seen all my teammates just push past their limits, and to to see them fulfilling their hard work was just wow. And it got me so excited to go and show what I could do on the course for our race. So it was awesome.
Let's bring in the other face that popped up on our screen here. All right, you guys, you certainly have a talented roster. It was a great race, but as we just mentioned, it just seems that the BYU group is just more than a group of fast runners. You have that special bond, and you gotta say the person really that laid that foundation, Coach Diljeet Taylor, is joining us. And Coach, we mentioned for those of us watching it on TV, you didn't say a thing about splits. You didn't say a thing about tactics. You just talked about the girls. and you've got like 30 girls, 35 girls on your roster. I mean, and yeah, that I always think that's a great sign of a program when girls come in and you get some freshmen like Lexi who can really run and they take a spot, but they stay with it. And it looked like every girl there was part of that championship. That's a great thing to do. First off, welcome and congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yeah, just really proud of the sisterhood that these women have built. And we talk about it a lot in the program. I think a coach has a vision of what they want their program to look like, but that can't come to life without the right women in the program. And we're really fortunate here at BYU that we have the right women in the program that have bought into the sisterhood, and they've bought into each other, and they've learned how to, believe in themselves through believing in each other. And those lessons go much further than this sport ever will. But I'm super proud and humbled to be their coach and to have spent that fabulous weekend of 4 days, just a dream come true. To have that experience with these women. So our success is really attributed to the ladies in this program, all of them, even the ones that you didn't see on that course or in Arkansas. There are women behind the scenes that were in the locker room that helped the women that did get to show up. And that's when a program is bigger than the people in it. So I'm really proud of that.
Well, Coach Eyestone, I'm going to bring you back in because I'll never forget the conversation we had when you were talking about Coach Taylor and how pumped you were to bring her on your staff. And, it just seems like when the women do well, the guys are pumped. When the guys do well, the women are excited. So how do you keep that too? I mean, it was a tough day for your men's team. You guys didn't perform the way you want. And you as an athlete know that better than anyone. That's what makes you good athletes, is coming back from disappointment. So how was that airplane ride home?
You know what? Coach Taylor was a phenomenal role model last year or in 2019, when the men did have a banner day and we were able to win the championship. And it was our first time ever as a BYU team, men's cross country team, bringing home the national championship. And they were second, and they were just such a close second. I mean, it was within just a couple of seconds that they were second. And to see the way that the grace that they had, the joy that they had in getting second place, but yet handling the disappointment, but being totally supportive of us. So Coach Taylor and her ladies last year were just amazing. And yeah, it was kind of our men's team were in a good position. We had a guy go down 500 meters from the finish. And when that happens, you add 100 points onto your team, and suddenly you go from third to, seventh. I think the men were able to take consolation, certainly in Connor Mantz's banner day. I was talking to a buddy of mine after. He said, bottom line is, if people remember who won it as a team and who won it as an individual. And so I kind of look at it as the women carried the banner very high as the team, and Connor Mantz for our men's program carried it very well for the men. So we came away with it, feeling fine about it. Another friend of mine also called and said, Ed, I know you're disappointed. He said, I purposely didn't call you last year because I knew you were inundated with all kinds of phone calls, but I'm calling you now this year. And I won't quote him exactly, but he said, I want you to tell your men that they ran like insert word warriors. They ran like really tough warriors. Only he used an expletive there. And I think that's when your guys go into battle and they really want to win something and they take a swing for it, and you know what, they come up short, they run themselves into unconsciousness, then you can't be that disappointed. And we got track season now on the horizon, so we're really excited. And you know what, we were excited for the women as well. We were super excited. In fact, the guys were actually standing on the line when the announcement came forward that the women had won, and they were high-fiving each other. They were very excited and said, let's go do this as well.
Class acts, that's for sure.
That really does. That really captures that feeling, doesn't it? That's interesting. Coach Taylor, all three of the girls that have joined us, you were all outstanding high school runners, but not the top, not the number one girl. We've seen those girls come and we've seen them go. You guys have all developed well. Coach Taylor, you really guys have a philosophy of development, don't you?
I think it's a really important part of a program. And I think it's, equally as important to get the big names. And these women were big names in high school. They ran it at the Foot Locker, and they were state champions, and they represented themselves really well in high school. But what stood out to me is the type of girls they were, and how hard they wanted to work, and the dreams that they were going to bring into the program, and just their unique stories. And as you get to know each of them and their unique stories, you want to help support them to reach their potential and to help those dreams come true. This sport is doing a lot more than it's about more than just performances for these young women. And so I talk about all the time, you have to get the right women in the program. And so it's hard to look backwards. We want to appreciate what people have done in high school. We do, but it's hard to look forward if you're always constantly looking backwards. So once you come into this program, it's great what you've done in high school, but it should be more exciting what you're doing in college. And I think when you have a program that can develop talent, it shows the next generation of women that I can come into this program and get better as well. So I'm excited that these women have paved the way for the next generation of women that will come through the program.
Coach Taylor, you said win the weight through COVID, and Coach Eyestone, you say win your race. Like, you guys have these awesome sayings, and I can't tell you, I mean, just living life right now, I've been using your mottos. All the studying that I did before NCAAs, it's like constantly in my head. But I mean, these few little things that you say to your athletes, whether it's a three-word sentence or one word, you guys have this oomph behind it. So how did you coach these athletes through this tough time? And how did you also coach athletes when they maybe weren't quite at their top shape to go and run the NCAAs, but yet they still got on the line and they still tried their very best and they did it for the team? So Coach Taylor, maybe talk a little bit about how you got through this tough time this year.
Well, I think all of us know there wasn't a manual that we were given to get through this pandemic, and we just tried to figure it out the best that we could. For me, I wanted to look back at 2020 and be able to say we came out of it better than we went into it. And how do we do that? We win the weight, right? We do all the things that we can that are in our control, so that when we're given the opportunity, we can showcase what we've done in that time. And these women bought into that, and they did that. And not everybody was at 100% on March 15th. And not everyone had a great race, but they gave it their 100%. And I think that's a good lesson for everyone, is you may not be at your 100%, but you can all give your 100% on that day. And that's what these women have done. And their stories are incredible. Again, I want to take as little time, away from them, because they're the reason. They're the faces that you see that are holding up that trophy there. And they won the weight, and I was inspired to just believe in them. And I think that's also a big part of it, is I believe that these women were going to come out of the pandemic better than they went into it. And they believed it too. So it was.
We've got several questions. We'll never get to all of them, but this is a question from Alex Pazernick here. And this was probably one you really had to deal with. How hard was it choosing between indoor track and cross country? Never had a situation like this before. How did you both to make those decisions?
Well, just speaking on the men's side, we made a decision early on because we didn't have the group of middle distance people that we could just put out there this year. We had some phenomenal talent, but a couple of them were done with their eligibility, and then another one came on and ended up being a 355 miler for us and represented the men's side there, because he wasn't in our top 7 in cross country. But essentially my top guys who had run very fast 5,000s and 5,000s earlier in the year, we made a decision early on that we were going to focus on cross country. And in talking to Connor, because he was ultimately one of the guys that I had to do some convincing, because he stood a very good chance of maybe running a 5,000, winning the 5,000 indoors, or winning the 3,000 indoors, or even doing that double and then trying to come back. And if anybody could have done that, I think Connor Mantz could, just because of his strength and his grit and whatnot. And, he made the decision that, it was worth a team effort. It was worth it to forego any individual glory running indoor season, even though he was, I think, nation leading time in the 5,000, to pass up the 5,000 and to go into the cross country championships on that Monday a little bit more fresh. And then I also, did say, well, you know what, the guy who wins the national cross country championships, that's a nice little glory experience as well. That'll do wonders for your career as well. And so I think it was a matter of him making a personal sacrifice, and also just realizing that the better that he ran on race day, the overall, it was going to help the team. And I guess, ultimately on paper, we felt like we had a chance to defend our title. That was kind of one of our phrases throughout the year, or the season, to kind of keep us going through the long fall, to defend our title. And to defend our title, we really felt like we had to have Klinger and Mance and Garnica make the personal sacrifice and just focus on cross country. And yeah, they ran one indoor race, but that was more of just kind of a tune-up, getting ready for the national meet. So that's kind of how we approached it.
Right. Coach Taylor?
For us, it happened a little more organically just because the way eligibility played out. And so we had individuals who had cross-country eligibility, and we had individuals who were done with cross-country eligibility and only had indoor. And so based on that, we made decisions then with the other individuals to what would be your best path. And for some women, we had a couple milers. Now you saw that course in Oklahoma. It's probably not super friendly to a speedy person. So we concentrated on getting those milers to just focus on indoor, and they qualified for the NCAA championships in indoor. We have a pretty good middle distance program. So those women that were running the 800 just focused on that. And then our distance crew, our 5K, 10K, and some of our freshmen who I thought could really help us, we focused on using them for cross country and giving them the experience so that they would have just a little bit more under their belt going into next year, which they're going to be freshmen again. Some of our returners, it was better for them to just go the cross country route. And I actually think in hindsight, we made the best decision because it worked out for both programs.
Boy, that's the understatement. And so you're saying that course would have been tough for a Cal State Stanislaus 800-meter runner. Is that what you're saying?
Well, Ed and I went in the fall and we walked some of those hills. So I have so much respect for anyone that raced on that course. It is harder than it looks.
Well, thank you, all of you, so much. It's really fun when the good guys and gals win, and everybody was just delighted with you folks winning, and you came across on TV as the champions that you all are. So, girls, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Coaches, thank you much. Connor, thank you for shaving that mustache. You look good. And thanks to everybody else. We're gonna let you go, or you can stay and listen, because we got a couple of Olympians coming up, and we want to bring them in because they were kind enough to join us. But thank you, folks, so much.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you. Good to see you guys.
Bye.
All right. We said that we wanted to have some fun with some different things, and one of the great things about our sport is that our top athletes, the best in the world, literally spend so much time with high school runners and coaches, and our guest with us tonight is certainly a great example of that. She's a Foot Locker alum, 4-time All-American, Foot Locker All-American High School, 5-time All-American in the World Cross Country Championships, our medalist, 8-time All-American at Arkansas, but the big deal, the 2004 Olympic bronze medalist in the marathon. And we are just delighted that Dina Castor is with us tonight. Dina, there you are.
Hi, Tim. Hi, Carrie. It's so good to see you guys again. And I'm so glad I got on early to be able to hear from Coach Eystone and Coach Taylor. What an inspiring group and a great program that has been going for so long. But what a year they had when they were faced with a lot of challenges and changes. That was really fun to hear from them.
Yeah,
Well,
you would have liked that course, Dina.
Yeah. And I was even reflecting and in listening to their mantras for the year. I remember interviewing Jared Ward before the London Marathon this past year. And he was asking Coach Eystone, like, should I run this race? It's kind of coming up quickly. And Coach Eystone's response was, any port in a storm, any race during COVID. And I just thought, oh my gosh, that's so brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, that leads us to a good one. You've been, you're working with coaches all the time now, and Andrew is, and you guys are working with athletes now all the time. So what have you been telling people for the last 12 months? These challenges are unlike anything any of us have ever faced. What's your advice been to people?
You know, getting the best out of yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally every day that running allows us to do really does set us up for any challenge. And I think the thing that all of us have learned most, because we had to practice it this past year, was to be flexible and to continue being flexible. I mean, it didn't just end on January 1st. We continue to have to be flexible with our schedules and our training. And so that's it. Be extraordinarily flexible, but also get the best out of every day, because that fitness never goes away. The fitness is there, but you also want to stay mentally strong and fit, especially with an Olympic year coming up. So every year has its importances, but really this year was meant to challenge us so that we could be our best selves. And we have seen that come out through and through every single race weekend that we've been blessed to witness since the pandemic started. There has been some phenomenal performances, and it's because people have showed up every day to put in the work.
Yeah, I sometimes wonder what next year will be like when we could, if we can go back to the way it was before COVID, if people won't go back to how it was before COVID. I mean, we have seen, especially in the college level, the collegiate level, that athletes are really responding well, maybe to not racing every single weekend. And, you know, in our sport, at least, you know, I think it's just really interesting to see what's happening.
Yeah, that they show up for the national championships and they're all ready for it. They're not burnt out. They're not injured. They're not dealing with the niggles that come with being in spikes and racing twice a week. So it's been really interesting. We've also seen on a professional level custom races. It seems like races are being catered for people to run their best race, and we've seen that at the marathon distance this past weekend. Desiree Linden breaking the world record in the 50K on a fast course somewhere in Oregon. So it's been really exciting on so many levels, from high school to college to the professional level, to see people really rising to the occasion and showing their best side, knowing full well that they've all gone through the challenges that we have, but they've really taken to it and put their best foot forward day in and day out, and it shows on race day.
Well, that was one of my questions for you, because you have been so good at every level. And you continue to rise to the occasion. You go through things yourself. I mean, you've been injured, you've had illness, you've had it all. But every level you show up, and you have your book, and it's amazing. And you know, I love your audiobook because, you know, it's so fun to hear it in your own words. But I mean, how do you think you did that, Dina? You know, I know that you're naturally gifted, but it takes a lot of mental toughness, and it takes a lot of physical toughness as well.
Yeah. When you talked about challenges, you forgot to say homeschool teaching this past year.
Don't even start. I'm still in it. Are you?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Still in the thick of it. But there, you know, if you practice seeing the silver lining, if you practice not seeing excuses, but seeing how to keep moving forward, and if you practice those decisions on a daily basis, it does show up for you when life hits the fan. It shows up for you when you need it the most, but it takes practicing. We have to get out there and practice physically every day in order to be the strongest version of ourselves, but we also have the opportunity to show up in a big mental, emotional way. We could all be our greatest critics, but until we can master being our greatest cheerleaders, we will not reach our physical potential. And so that's what I wanted to really give in the book that I wrote. But when I even talk to people, that it is the daily practice of being optimistic, seeing solutions, not being dismissive and saying, no, everything's fine in a pandemic year, but saying, you know, this is a challenge and I have to be flexible and I have got to get in my work. And so how am I going to get this in? How do I get myself motivated? Find a quote on the internet and paste it everywhere in the house to keep you motivated. Keep those running shoes out right at the front door so that you have to walk by them and you might as well just go run a few miles since they're talking to you each time you pass them. So just being creative and finding that way, but also making sure it stays enjoyable. It's not this miserable march outside, but finding that joy. For me, anytime I could anytime I plateaued in running, which was often, I started running at 11, I'm now 48. So there was a lot of plateau potential in there, but I always found a way to get re-inspired. And the thing that came up time and time again was just feeling so fulfilled when I got out to explore a new neighborhood, a new trailhead. So that to me really fueled my running spirit and got me back into the grindstone of the workouts and the monotony it takes to put in those miles day in and day out.
I love it.
You know, the book, Let Your Mind Run, you know, it's certainly a memoir, but I keep telling coaches it's on my list of recommendations always, because it just presents such a great understanding of the coach-athlete relationship from the athlete side. You know, and you've had really good coaches. I mean, you had a great coach at high school to girl. You had a great coach with Lance at Arkansas and Dr. V. Hill. I mean, you've had a great group of coaches. But for coaches that are currently coaching now to understand that relationship, you really delve into that. And that's a great insight into that.
Yeah, and coaches are so important. Our sport looks so individual, and those of us in the sport of cross country know how to work as a team better than any sport out there. It is really beautiful to give your best on the race course because it benefits the team, not just yourself. And so that is a great privilege, and it's always been important for me to be a part of a team. I didn't realize it coming out of high school and looking at colleges, like, what am I looking for? I don't even know what to ask. I don't know what to see or what's going to excite me. But at the time, I found it in the University of Arkansas because the team was so tight knit and Lance was so approachable. And it reminded me of what I had as a high school athlete. I had a tight knit team. I had a coach that was approachable and that we could speak honestly to each other as a team. And so it was really important to make sure that that was a part of my future if I wanted to get more out of the sport. And so that's how I chose Arkansas. It's how I chose working with Coach V. Hill in Colorado at the time, because he was part of a team, and why we moved to California together. My husband, Andrew, Coach V. Hill, and a bunch of other athletes from around the nation to make sure we were part of a team as well. So, and putting the best of the best together. When you get a good group of people together, you all rise to the occasion, and that synergy is so important. But the leader of that group is certainly the coach.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Yeah. And that comes through too, the people you trained with on a daily basis all over. Well, Dina, you really do share with everybody. And I know anytime we see you and kids come up to you and all, and coaches, you're so gracious with your time. And what you and Andrew are doing is wonderful as far as helping others. So thank you so much. Once again, we really do appreciate you being here and all you've done for the sport. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Carrie. Thanks, Tim. It was a pleasure, everybody. Have a great rest of your week.
All right. Hey, we thought we'd have a little bit of fun. You know, one of the things we've always talked about, you know, we're almost to 100 former high school runners who raced in Foot Locker have eventually gone on to race for the USA in the Olympic Games. Almost 100. It's almost like every single one of them at some point in high school that ran in Foot Locker ends up in the Olympic program at some point. So we've been we're always watching to see who the next Foot Locker alum who's going to be there, who will be wearing the USA singlet, just like Dina did in the Olympic Games. And, you know, we found two pretty good ones. So what we thought we'd do is kind of keep an eye out who's really hot right now, who's tearing it up. And let me go first, if I may, Carrie, because it's really been a great month or two for this young man. You know, usually guys don't make the Olympic team until they're out of college, or maybe even 3 or 4 or 5 years out of college. But Cole Hawker, he won the Foot Locker meet just 2.5 years ago. And he's now looking like he's going to be a real contender for one of the top 3 spots in the 1500 in the Olympic trials. You know, he led Oregon to the NCAA Indoor National Championship. He set a meet record in winning the mile, and he came back 55 minutes later and won the 3,000, almost set a meet record there. He's the youngest athlete ever to do that indoors. And then a couple weeks before that, he ran 350.55 in the mile at Arkansas. Now, I got edged out by his own teammate, Cooper Tier, who ran 350.39. The two of them, though, they broke the NCAA record, indoor record of 352.01, ironically set by a former Duck and a former 2-time Foot Locker national champion, Edward Cheswick. But it sure looks like Cole Hawker, if you're doing a pool for top 3 in the 1500, that's a pretty good bet. Carrie?
Yes, and on the ladies' side, oh my goodness, I'm super pumped for her. Sage Herda. She was a 3-time cross-country champion in high school. She was a 4-time track championship champion. She also was 10th at the 2015 Foot Locker Championships. I love this stat about her. She's currently attending the University of Colorado, where she's majoring in chemical and biological engineering and also mathematics. I mean, get out of here. But also, you guys, she's a 3.951 GPA. That's what she has right now. It's amazing. She is the 2021 NCAA Indoor Mile Champion, like Cole, and she was a member of the 2017 NCAA DMR Championship team. She also was 22nd at the 2018 NCAA Cross Country Championships, where she helped her team win. I mean, she just ran 54 seconds in the open 400 without blocks. She also split 53 seconds, and she's leading the NCAA right now with a 2 flat 800 meter time. We got to give a shout out to her. Sage, you're doing great. We've got our eyes on you. We've also seen fellow Foot Locker alum and Colorado Buffalo, Jenny Simpson, make the Olympic team while she was still in her University of Colorado jersey. So we could see this happen with Sage.
Outstanding. All right. Hey, we saved the best for last here. So another a great Foot Locker alum. You know, so many are out there doing things far beyond just the sport. And so we're going to bring in one of our all-time favorites, Todd Williams. Now, Todd was second in 1986, and that's a few years ago, but that still is, and it may be the greatest mass boys race ever in Foot Locker history, way back in 86. Mark Davis did win it, Todd was second, and then Bob Kennedy was third. And what did those guys have in common? Well, they all made the Olympic team at some point. So it was a great race, one of the fastest ever. Todd, you've always been really gracious with your time. We appreciate you being here. I want to talk a little bit about you're an amazing runner, but you know, now life goes on and you're doing some new and interesting things. So tell us what you're up to now.
Yeah. So can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Here you
Are you good? Okay. Yeah. So when I retired from professional distance running in 2002, I jumped into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and martial arts. And, you know, I really started doing it like my running. I got addicted to it. I wanted to get better and better. And then the next thing you know, 10 years in, I'm earning my black belt. And I just had an idea to create a company with my two passions. So at that point in time in 2011, 12, you know, I had run close to 65,000 miles in my life in all my running logs. And it took me about 6,000 hours to earn a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I took those two passions and I created a company called Run Safer. So from that point until now, I've taught probably close to 500 self-defense and safety seminars around the United States, a lot of running specialty stores around the United States, got involved in universities, colleges, teaching safety on campus. And it's just a dream job. I mean, really to be able to connect my two loves and turn it into a job, then I'm making an impact in every community that I get to go into to talk about safety, or doing Zoom calls over the last year and a half. I still know that I'm making a huge impact, because every time I give a safety tip or every time I show a certain technique, if one person walks away from that presentation and they happen to have to use it in a dangerous situation, then I know that my job's making an impact. So, you know, from my running days, starting in high school at Monroe High School in Michigan, you know, being fortunate to work super hard and run in Kinney or Foot Locker and have my running career, then be able to continue on. I wake up every day and I kind of pinch myself because I love what I do.
You know, Todd, you were intense as an athlete. And you also had a ton of fun. I mean, you and I know each other really well, and you have always been kind of like the big brother, teaching us all like how to be better, how to stay safe, how to do something that, you know, we might not really know we can do, but why not believe it? Where do you think you learned that?
You know, I don't know. I think, you know, my parents, my family, my friends, you know, my community's small. You know, I live in a town of about 17, 18,000 people, a couple red lights. Blue collar, as you know, my dad was blue collar, is always work hard. You can always, you know, keep going. And, you know, and I think that's where it probably comes from. And then, you know, I hate to lose, you know, like you know, I think all of us don't like it, and I hate it. So I just, you know, every day I wake up, I just try to find something positive to do. And I just I just keep trying to work hard and and really at age 52 now, my goal is to make a positive impact, right? any way that I can make a positive impact in my community here in Monroe, if it's my jiu-jitsu school, if it's traveling, like tomorrow I'm doing a Zoom call with Fleet Feet Nashville, so we're going to talk about safety. A couple of attacks happened on campus at Belmont. So I know that I'm going to make a huge impact tomorrow. So that's how I do it, and then maybe on Friday, I know I'm going to teach a kids class on safety, and it just keeps going and going. It's like one big safety snowball that, like I said, it's a dream. But you're right, I am intense, and I just like to improve. I like to improve and do positive stuff.
Yeah, you said that race with Mark Davis and Bobby Kennedy still keeps you up at night a little bit.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, when you think about that crew, right? I mean, Davis running on his home course. I always joke when I do, any speaking engagements, like, man, I wish if I would have had a chance to run on my home course. But honestly, that day with Davis, he was on fire. I mean, he ran great. I mean, he was on the top of his game. And I think second place was, I hate to admit it, but that's the best that I could have possibly done that day. I think if Mark could take back time, I think he probably would have sprinted through the line, and he would potentially be the course record holder to this day.
That's right.
Because he just missed it by that much, right? Was a second and a half, 2 seconds.
That's right. He did.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
I think your time is the second fastest second place, and I think there's only been like 7 or 8 champions in 40 years that have run faster than. I think you're 14:48, if I remember right. Yeah.
I think they gave me a 49.0.
Okay.
I'll take the 48.
They will take 48. You're 52. Every year you get to take one off from here out. But that's one of the fastest times ever run. So gosh, it was a great race, Shoot.
Yeah, and then I think Bob was at about 15. I think it went, Mark, myself, and then Bob was a little bit over 15 minutes that day. And then a race you're talking about, I believe it was the Mastelier brother. Right. Mark was 14:41 for probably the fastest second place in history in 1985. Yeah.
You don't remember though.
That is pretty great that you guys all made it to the Olympic Games, all from that race. So, Todd, it's great to hear you and great to see you again. You're always a delight to have around. We'll leave you with this. Whenever Todd comes to the actual Foot Locker event, I always tell Todd, you can talk about everything on the race, just don't talk about all the trouble you caused that night. So we're going to leave that off right there, okay?
Yeah, we had a lot of great times, and I love that event. It's one of the biggest highlights of my life is being able to compete out at Balboa and being able to stay at Hotel Del Coronado. I mean, any opportunity to come here and 30-something years, and that's one of the biggest highlights ever that I'll ever have in my life.
I know that some of the kids get disappointed when you tell them, hey, this is as good as it's going to get. You're never going to stay in a hotel like this again.
Well, not just that, just the way you're treated. I mean, Carrie will tell you, going all over the world, the kids are treated now. It's top of the top. You can't get much higher. So when they do get a chance, if they earn the right to get out there and be one of the top runners in the United States in high school, that's the place to do, and they're going to be treated like gold.
And I do think too, we just have that connection. Yeah, it's when you are making Olympic teams together. But we did this thing in high school, and even though you're just a little bit older than me, Todd, I mean, we still have that connection, right? Like you competed at this amazing event, and so did I. And throughout life now, we've always talked about those races, what happened in high school, and what did you do at the Dell, and things like that. So it's a cool family to be a part of.
Yeah, it's just been it's a great partnership, right? I mean, all of us, we created one big fraternity sorority. When we see each other, we have a blast. We're cheering for everybody. Even if they ran in 2000 or 2010, you're always rooting for somebody to do great things when they come out of Foot Locker, and you want to continue those. I've got all lifelong friendships out of that event, so including yourself. So, and again, you and I have so many great things that have come from our running, making the Olympics, but also you took it to broadcasting. You're working really hard, doing great things in the broadcasting world. I happen to go out another path with my hard work, and now I do a little bit of broadcasting, but it's my passion is my Run Safer and my school here in Monroe and making a positive impact. So we just got to keep cheering each other on to do good things.
I love it.
What
Thank
a
you for all
perfect
your
way to
work.
end. Thank you so much, Todd. It's great to have you back and great to see you. And we'll hopefully get you back out to the Dell here soon again, huh?
I promise to be better when I come out there.
All right. Well, you're probably
I
gonna
don't know.
You'll probably
I
go
don't
to
think
sleep
so.
earlier. At 52, you're probably not going to be out on the beach at midnight. So.
Oh, do not put him past that.
Okay. All right. Let's end this call before somebody says something they shouldn't say. So let's move on. All right, Todd.
All right.
Thank you so
Bye,
much. And
Todd.
thanks. Hey, a sincere thanks to everybody. This was a lot of fun. Coaches Taylor and Eyestone, they were great. The athletes from BYU, you know, the team national champions, Connor, the individual, Dina and Todd and Carrie. Thank you so much. This was a lot of fun. We hope to have this fun once a month here for the next several months. So keep us in mind, second Wednesday of the month. It'll be at the same time. So we're coming back on May 12th. Just go to Foot Locker CC and please share this information with somebody else. Maybe get your team together for a night. It's a lot of fun. We promise to have people just as good and as exciting and as enjoyable as we did it tonight. So on behalf of everybody involved, Carrie and myself and everybody, good night and thanks for joining us.